What's up, guys? It's Dan from Coin Bureau Trading. Today we're going to talk about the Fed cut, the crypto pump that eventually followed, and what comes next for the crypto market. If this is the kind of content that you enjoy, then be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ping that notification bell. Before we get started, do keep in mind that nothing in this video is financial advice. It's just my personal analysis of the crypto market. Your analysis could be different, and if it is, that's awesome, because the more difference of opinion that we have, the better traders and the better investors we're all going to become. So I actually want to start off, guys, by looking very quickly at Bitcoin dominance, because this is kind of like a cheat code you can use that whenever there's like crazy crypto market volatility, like related to a Fed meeting or something like that, in the short term, it can seem really scary because prices are going up a lot, then they're going down a lot. And one way that you can tell, what's really going on is to look at Bitcoin dominance. If Bitcoin dominance is just chopping sideways or going down, then that basically tells you that everything is fine. It means that people are holding. And if Bitcoin dominance is going down, that tells you that people are actually rotating more into altcoins. And of course, if Bitcoin dominance is going up, then that would suggest flight to safety. That would suggest that people are panicking, selling out of altcoins and going into Bitcoin. And as you guys can see here, there was no kind of spike in Bitcoin dominance. In fact, there was a big drop in Bitcoin dominance, which is really good, really bullish. That tells us that people are feeling bullish and rotating more into altcoins. So regardless of the short-term price action, that happened in the hours after the Fed meeting, everything was basically looking fine. So this is just a cheat code to keep in mind. Next time there's a Fed meeting or some crazy thing that happens and you're worrying and you're thinking, oh my God, the prices are going down and everything is going to crash, check Bitcoin dominance. If Bitcoin dominance is the same or going down, then everything is fine. And if it's going down, I would argue then that suggests that there's kind of like a bullish undertone that the price action doesn't show you right away. Anyways, that brings us to, of course, the Fed cut. As you guys heard, the Fed did cut rates by 25 basis points. That's what everyone was expecting. That's what was priced in. If you want a detailed analysis of the Fed, kind of similar to what I did yesterday, I would suggest checking out this FOMC debrief by Joseph Wang. He's a bond trader, or I guess used to be a bond trader at the Federal Reserve. He's very familiar with how the Fed works. He actually wrote a book about central banking, which is really good. I would highly recommend it. And I would actually suggest subscribing to his channel. He does the best kind of breakdowns after the Fed meeting, in my opinion. And what's really cool is that he kind of explained things similarly to how I did, or I guess more accurately, I explained things similarly to how he does, where the Fed cut, that was kind of priced in. That was kind of a nothing burger. The SEP ended up being a little bit more bearish than expected because basically the markets had been pricing in more cuts for later next year or going into the future than what was in the SEP, that economic forecast from the Fed. And then the third factor was that Jerome, of course, did seem to prioritize unemployment over inflation in his speech. That was kind of mildly bullish. So you had a Fed cut that was basically a nothing burger. It was priced in, neutral. Then you had an SEP that was slightly bearish, and then Fed, Jerome's speech that was slightly bullish. And of course, there was lots of volatility again, all across the board, whether it was in crypto or in stocks or in the US dollar. The US dollar actually was pretty crazy. I remember watching this drop down here down to 96.2, and I was like, wow, that is just crazy. But of course, from a technical perspective, guys, it is normal that when you get a big breakdown like this, you get a rally back up to the kind of breakdown level, which in this case is around 97.4 or whatever. So of course, we have seen a rally in the DXY back up to this level after it had a breakdown, and now we wait and see, is the DXY going to continue rallying or is it going to continue rolling over? Of course, I believe that the DXY is likely to continue rolling over. And if we zoom out here, guys, to the daily, you can see that, it's just having a little bit of a bounce back up to this, you could say, previous support level. And then after that, in the coming days or maybe next week, we'll probably start to see the DXY continue rolling over, which of course would correspond, historically speaking, to an altcoin season. So it is still, looks like it's still a couple of days away here, let's say. Anyways, turning now to Bitcoin, as you guys can see, Bitcoin is struggling to get above around this CME gap level of around 117.3 thousand, which makes sense because as you guys can see, that's a key resistance level that goes all the way back to July. Bitcoin spent a lot of time chopping around that range. So it's going to be tricky for Bitcoin to get back into that range, but I do think that it will eventually. And I still think there's a chance here that by tomorrow, that Bitcoin could rally somewhere up to, 119 or 120,000 to finish off this Bitcoin mini cycle, which is basically this 10-day period where Bitcoin price either basically melts up or melts down, or sometimes it just kind of chops sideways. But usually it's a melt up or a melt down. And in this case, it's quite clear that this Bitcoin mini cycle is a melt up. So don't be surprised if later today or tomorrow, we basically see a continuation higher and Bitcoin closes, well, not closes the week, but closes tomorrow, closes this Bitcoin mini cycle somewhere in that, let's say between 118 and 120,000 range, right? And that would be a pretty standard, nice, like little Bitcoin mini cycle. And of course, when it comes to others, others is looking really good here, in my opinion. It looks like it's kind of curling up for a bull, or I guess creating a bull flag. And it looks like others is going to rally back up to this long-term resistance line somewhere around 370 billion. And that could happen probably in the next week or so. I would say by the end of the month, almost for sure. And if you need additional evidence of that, guys, look no further than the announcement we got from the SEC last night, which I think is part of why the crypto market rallied. And that was basically that the SEC said, hey, from now on, we will basically approve ETFs if they have futures on, or like spot crypto ETFs, if they have futures on Coinbase. And there's a list actually provided here by Erica Balkunas, who's the one of the ETF analysts at Bloomberg. He provided this nice long list here of all these different cryptos. There's Chainlink, there's Stellar, there's Avalanche, there's Polkadot, there's Dogecoin, of course, which is actually going to be getting an ETF, I think, later today, and same with XRP. Of course, there's Solana, Hedera, Cardano, which technically also got like this fund approved and all this stuff. But the key point being is that, this kind of announcement from the SEC basically suggests that, hey, there's going to be a lot more liquidity flowing into altcoins, which is, again, consistent with this idea that we're about to enter an altcoin season. And of course, on the macro front, after the DXY is done having a little bounce here, it'll probably continue rolling over, which would also be conducive to an altcoin season. Anyways, guys, if you are enjoying the video so far, then I do please ask you to go check out the description. Just click more and then click on this link right here where it says BitGet up to 50,000 USDT deposit bonus, as well as like a trial of an AI agent trading assistant. To click that link, it takes 2 seconds. It'll take you to a page that looks like this. And to take advantage of this deal, guys, all you have to do is enter your email or mobile phone number, set a password, and then, agree to the terms, create an account. It takes 2 seconds to sign up. And again, you could get up to $50,000 USDT as a deposit bonus. That's a huge bonus, guys. Take advantage of this deal before it's gone. Click the link down in the description. Anyways, moving on now to a few charts here. Ethereum, we're going to be looking at Ethereum, Solana, and Sui. So just a spoiler for you guys if you made it this far. As you can see, Ethereum also looking good. Had a nice bounce off the Bollinger Band moving average yesterday. Looking pretty strong here. I do think that Ethereum will probably rally back up to around 4,800 in the next couple of days and then continue breaking out. For Solana, like I have to say, like I'm pretty surprised here that Solana actually managed to break back above. Like I was looking at this pattern and like through the Bollinger Band and everything, I was like, this is not looking good. Like it looks like Solana's going to roll over back to like 215 or something. And as you guys can see, Sol actually broke above that level, and it looks like it's probably going to rally to like 275 in the next week or two. Let's call it by the end of the month. And this is actually consistent. If we look at the Sol ETH chart, you'll notice, and I think I mentioned in a previous video, that Sol ETH still has a little bit of room to rally. So what this means is that Solana, there's still room for Solana to outperform Ethereum, maybe by another few percentage points. And this will probably happen by the end of the month. Of course, we're looking at Sol ETH on the monthly here. You can see that the monthly Bollinger Band is around that level. There's also a long-term resistance line around that resistance zone, resistance line, whatever you want to call it. Long-term resistance around that level, around 0.056. So once you see Sol ETH getting up to that range there, don't be surprised that you start to see Ethereum maybe like taking over. But I think what's probably going to happen is that Sol and ETH will probably rally in tandem. Like they'll be rallying roughly the same in percentage terms, because Sol ETH is probably going to top somewhere around this range and just chop around that range. My kind of hot take is that Sol and ETH have similar potential in terms of gains from these levels right now. I think they're both going to rally whatever it is, like another 2x, let's say. And then when it comes to Sui, of course, I do think that once Solana takes a breather, I think Sui is going to be the next to rally. It's looking really good here on the daily. Looks like it's going to rally back up to this long-term resistance of around $4, maybe $4.10, whatever you want to call it. And once it gets above that level, which I do think will happen probably by the end of the month, then Sui is probably going to start taking off. And I think October is going to be very, very big for Sui and for other large caps. And again, as others continues to rally higher here, that's going to be more and more money spilling into these smaller cap altcoins, consistent with this classical altcoin season that everyone has been waiting for. Anyways, guys, if you did make it this far and you did find that information helpful, then be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, ping that notification bell, and I'll see you in the next one.